So it's September the 12th, and there's a lot of news coming out for Nintendo. First of all, tomorrow, September the 13th, the Nintendo Direct that was put on hold because of the hurricane happening in Japan has been confirmed to be coming tomorrow, which is September the 13th. And also, the Nintendo Switch's online service has been confirmed to be releasing either September the 18th or the September the 19th. There's also some news talking about there perhaps being some sort of Switch Pro coming out. And this has been like a long rumor that's been going on pretty much since, I guess, back when the Switch launched. I mean, and if they chose to or to not do this, I mean, it really wouldn't bother me. I mean, I bought the DSi when I had the DS, and I bought the new 3DS when I already had the 3DS. So, slight improvement. I mean, I want the best experience, right? But I also usually tend to support things that they could do that usually doesn't require like buying like any type of new hardware or anything. Like say for instance, you want hard drive support on the Switch. Why not just add the update to support like USB hard drives or USB storage? Or if you want an Ethernet port on the Switch, just buy a Ethernet adapter. Don't buy an entirely new Switch for an Ethernet port or dock. But yeah, I was using that same analogy for this, and so far with the Switch graphically, I mean, I wouldn't say it's terribly bad, but at the same time, it's nowhere near what the PS4 and Xbox One has. I mean, there's a lot of games starting to come to it now. We're getting Doom Eternals, we got Doom, Wolfenstein 2, Fortnite, one of the top games out right now is on it. There's Minecraft. We're getting games like Diablo, Warframe, and I mean, we're getting a lot of like ports from older consoles. We're getting some from newer consoles too, though, and there's also a lot of games coming out now. I mean, it's starting to pick up to get like more games that the PS4 and Xbox One are getting. I mean, currently the Switch, the max it runs like with like resolution and all is it runs at 1080p 60 frames, and then docked is like 720p 60 frames. There are a lot of games that meet that max requirement. But there are also a lot of games that use like dynamic resolution. There's some that run under 720. There's some that run like around 30 max. So I was thinking about some things that maybe Nintendo could do that could not only increase the performance of games on the Switch, but make them look better. And how it might not be something that you would have to like buy. So as said previously, the Switch runs at 1080 60, but there's some games that are like lower, but then handheld is like 720 60. But what if Nintendo made it to where if you have the Nintendo Switch's online service, one of the features that they add is the support for cloud computing. There's been some talk about cloud computing in the past where it could make like games like run better, and they do all like the computing over like a server or something. It's not the same as streaming a game, or at least I don't think it is. Basically, imagine this: like you're playing Doom. What's that game run like 720 30 frames or something like that, docked, and when you get home, well, you're already home, when you connect to the Wi-Fi and you're online, it starts to like kick in with the cloud computing, and the game bumps up to like 1080 60 frames per second, and it might even stream some like better looking like textures. And if you're playing in handheld mode, of course, the max is like 720 60, but with Doom, I don't know, it's probably around maybe 360 30, I don't know, but it'll max out to like 720 60. And this is something that can can fix pretty much every game in the past on the Switch, and also future games. And like I said previously, you are already playing for the Switch Online, so they could just be like a feature to add to Switch Online to be more of an incentive to like get the online service. And it would negatively affect like people who don't have it, because if you don't have the online service, then the games are just running as they do now already. The second thing that I can see them doing if they don't do the cloud computing route is, and this is something that they did previously with previous consoles and handhelds, and also this is probably something that will only support like future games. But in the past, I can remember there were games. I can't remember if they were on the NES, Super NES, or 64, or I can't remember which handheld it was, but there were games that had like RAM built into the cartridge. And since the Switch has like a cartridge, uses cartridges for the games now, I mean, we got the 1 gig card, we got 2 gig, 4 gig, 8 gig, 16 gig, 32 gig, and supposedly we're getting 64 gig soon. What if in the future, all those like different sizes of cards also have the option to for developers to get these cards and choose like what size RAM they want in them. Say for instance, the next Doom. Well, the Switch currently has like 4 gigs of RAM, and another PS4 and Xbox One they have like 8 gigs of RAM. I'm not talking about the upgraded versions, but say for instance, you know, that game requires like, I don't know, 6 or 7 gigs of RAM, then maybe they get a variant of the cart and they could choose to either put like 2 gigs of RAM into the cart or 4 gigs of RAM, and that would total out to the Switch having, at least with that game in, to have around like 6 gigs of RAM or 8 gigs of RAM in it, which would help the game run better and look smoother. And it could all just go to the developer. He could use like they could use the standard carts that are currently out now, or they could use like the carts which have like RAMs, and they could choose like the size of the RAM. Like remember, I think some 64 games had RAMs like in the carts, but it was also the expansion pack RAM that went into like the front of the 64. Which brings me to my third one, which this one is not very likely, but I mean if they do this it'd be quite interesting. But like I said previously, the Switch has like 4 gigs of RAM, and the competition, their base one has like 8 gigs. So like with the 64, that had the expansion pack. I think the 64 had like 4 megabytes of RAM in it, and then it had an expansion pack that added like 4 more megabytes, making it like 8 megabytes. So I'm thinking the Switch, there are certain ways they could do this. They could either make it to where they sell an expansion pack for the Switch which has like 8 gigs of RAM, and you plug it into the USB 3.0 port into the back. Or they could make it to where it's like a little like bar thing that they put into the dock and goes onto the USB-C port. So when you dock the console, it plugs into the bottom of the console, and then when you undock it, you know, you're playing in handheld mode, you can also use it when it plugs into the USB-C port. And it's like a USB-C expansion RAM or something. Again, this one I don't really see that likely because it's like a attachment that just hangs at the bottom of the console, or the console sits on top of in the dock. Or it might just plug into a USB port, I don't know. I see the other two options, the game cloud computing, or the new cartridges having like RAM built into them, like a lot more feasible. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that though. Let me know what you guys think about it.